Welcome to the Black Pill. Today we're talking about the existential horror of Dora the Explorer. Existential horror? Cosmic horror? Cosmic horror. Yeah. All that kind of Lovecraftian stuff where if you really knew the nature of the universe, you'd be driven insane. The space is full of terrible, unimaginable things made of tentacles and plasma, and it has no concern for the morality of human beings or the safety or happiness thereof, and cosmic horror. My son's basically an adult now. Close enough, makes no difference. He wasn't always. I don't know if you know this about children. They start off very small and then they grow through time and mature through time. Um, obviously, obviously, right? Obviously. Well, there was a time when he was very little, and when I needed to work on a dissertation or a paper or a care plan or something, his babysitter was little Einsteins. He loved little Einsteins. I was skeptical of it, but and then he loved Dora the Explorer, and then he got into Diego, which was frankly a relief, a little bit of a relief, because Diego is in some ways as weird. Um, I tried Nihao Kai Lan, and that never. Honestly, it was as boring as Caillou, and it never took. And there's Dora. Dora lives in a horrifying universe. The trees talk and sometimes impede her way, her progress. Uh, she has a map. The map has eyes and a mouth, and she keeps the map inside of a sentient backpack. She has to sing the map its special song in order to get the map to open. The map is obdurate and won't give her any information unless it is appeased, like some elder god. She's friends with a monkey. The monkey wears boots. Um, the monkey might even be called Boots. I forget. It was a long time ago. The monkey doesn't wear pants, but he wears boots. Sometimes even the sky or the road speak to Dora the Explorer. I've never dropped acid. Like, reality's weird enough. Why do I need mind altering substances? But the way people describe acid, it recalls to me the experience of Dora the Explorer on in the background while I write personality reports. I wonder if the show would make more sense if one were absolutely tripping balls. Why? Why is it like that? Why is Dora the Explorer like that? Well, Piaget. Start with Jean Piaget. Young children are just not logical. 2 to 5, maybe 7. Young children, pre operational children, are just not logical. They're not capable of logic. And one way to quickly reveal this is to tell them jokes. Children can understand the social import of jokes, they can understand the social performance of laughter, but they have no idea the function of a joke. Chimpanzees. Humor might have started as chimpanzee racism. Chimpanzees are acutely territorial, and if a band of chimpanzees encourages if a band of chimpanzees encounters one stranger, a chimpanzee not in the band, then they tend to kill it. They tear it to pieces. But if a band of chimpanzees encounters a smaller band, then there's some risk to the band. My 5 guys fighting your 2 guys, maybe one of us gets hurt. And so they prefer to drive them away. And how they do that is all of the males jump up on a log or something to look bigger, and they raise the crest of fur that goes down their back to try and look huge. And they plant their fists and they, get as big as they can. And they all line up and they bare their teeth and they make this noise, very reminiscent actually of human laughter. It's very disturbing. It goes, and like wise interlopers into their territory leave. Laughter, at least at some level, is maybe about identifying strangers, interlopers, inappropriateness at that level, and maybe that's why when you get an email chain from your racist uncle, right? You just throw it in the delete box. So many jokes are ist, racist, sexist, religionist. A lot of human humor seems to be about identifying outsiders. Modern humor, we could see it as taking the fear of the outsider to this super abstract level where we're no longer demonizing strangers or groups of strangers, outgrouping and ingrouping, but we're finding something abstractly inappropriate. I had an uncle once who made really big money. He got 25 years, it was a quarter inch too big. I was driving down Main Street the other day and I saw a sign and it said, huge book sale. I pulled over, I went inside. I was really disappointed. All the books were regular size. So I was at the bank the other day on rent day and I asked the teller for a few hundred out of my account so I could pay my rent. And she goes, would you like that in large bills? I said, no thanks, regular size is okay. See, I had this uncle once. Those are good jokes. Those are good jokes. But more importantly, they're illustrative. Jokes lead you in a particular direction, and then they take a sudden left turn from that direction. And in taking that sudden left turn, they're illustrating some concept, right? And deviating from the concept, we're illustrating and strengthening the concept. And little kids don't get it because they don't get any of the concepts and they can't think logically about any of the concepts. Tell a little kid a knock-knock joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? Ivana. Ivana who? Ivana, come in now. And people laugh, and the little kid laughs, and they see everybody laughing. They have no idea what the joke signifies, what it means. They're only immersed in the social performance. So wait a little while, and the little kid, they're going to tell you a knock-knock joke back. They've gotten the formula. This is a game. Let's play the game. Knock, knock. Who's there? Poop. And we laugh because they're laughing, and right, little kid jokes have no logic in them. It's just a social performance and the exchange of affect, the laughter. Kids don't get jokes because they're not capable of logic. Not until maybe 10 or 12. And then the jokes by 12 could be sophisticated. One of the best jokes I ever heard came from a 12-year-old. What's the difference between a coyote and a flea? Well, one howls on the prairie, the other prowls on the hairy. Part of the logical incapacity of little children involves categories. They even have a hard time with group inclusion. So, show a kid a tray with some Reese's Minis on it and some Jolly Ranchers on it. And then ask if they want the Reese's or the candy. And like every kid on planet Earth chooses the Reese's because Reese's are delicious and Jolly Ranchers are just sad little rocks. But they're both candy, and if the kid had said, I want the candy, they would have gotten both things. Reese's are candy, Jolly Ranchers are candy. And this is a fundamental problem with group inclusion, the inability to organize information into hierarchies and then act upon those hierarchies. So they could have said candy, and then they'd have delicious Reese's peanut butter minis and ammunition for their slingshots. They don't know the difference. Um, what does it mean to be alive versus dead? And children, little children, just have no concept of alive or dead because alive and dead aren't real things in the world. Is a tough one. Is a tough one, humans. We're getting into the idea of reification, of treating abstractions as though they were real things in the universe with definite properties. And alive and dead are not definite properties. They seem to be. And most of the time, to an adult, alive and dead are obvious, but they're not, and they haven't always been. They're categories that we use to the extent that they're useful, but not things in themselves. Is Pluto a planet? Well, it depends how you define planet. And sometimes Pluto is, and sometimes it isn't, and sometimes it's a dwarf planet. Is a virus alive? Same problem. What's your starting definition? What do you mean by life? I remember reading Lord of the Rings in like the closing days of the last century, and it was a long time ago. Forgive me if I make a narrative error, but here we go. Merry and Pippin are off in the woods, and they go to sleep, and then when they wake up, the roots of the tree they lay down in are starting to creep over them to enclose them, and one of them gets away and runs off and finds, I forget it, probably Tom Bombadil, and brings him back. But their complaint is the trees are alive. The trees are alive. And like primitive people like our grandparents didn't think of trees or even fish as alive. You'd have to specifically prompt them into the category of living things, because alive didn't mean self-replicating chemical structure affected by Darwinian evolution, which is roughly the NASA definition for life, so that we can look for life. No, life meant agentic, capable of acting on its own behalf, of having some will. And kids have no idea. Kids have no idea. The sun could be alive. Hence the cosmic horror of the Teletubbies' solar baby. The TV could be alive. The fridge. Things that look like living things, such as creepy-ass clown dolls, have no place in a child's bedroom because the child can't distinguish between a doll that looks creepy and a clown that actually is objectively creepy. This is called animism. Young children are completely untroubled by the dancing flowers, singing trees, obdurate map, or reluctant road in Dora the Explorer. Adults might be if they're paying attention. I was really too busy. Dissertations are hard. We never really outgrow, however, the ambiguity of living versus dead things. In the uncanny valley, things appear so close to a living analog that they cause unease. The shape of a fire hydrant in the dark, in the mist, for example, it looks like a man waiting there on the street. And it troubles. Noises in the dark. You're in the house and there's a sound, and it could be a footstep on the stair riser. You're in that uncanny valley where random sounds indicate living presences. But We also respond to the television as though the television contains tiny people who can see and hear us. You're watching a slasher movie, as you do, and the nubile hero is just getting home to her apartment after a long day of watching her friends get murdered by the stabber. She tries the lights, but the power is out, and she thinks to herself, you know what I need? After a long, hard, murdery day of trying not to get stabbed, I need a shower. Um, yeah, and so she wanders through the apartment, taking off clothing items as she goes, and every reflective surface has a hint of the stabber. In every hallway she goes by, the stabber is standing there, and she never sees him, and at some point you just start to yell at the television. He's behind you! He's right behind you! Why are you taking a shower? But she isn't there. There's nobody there. This is some lights on a liquid crystal display or something. There's nobody there. Who are you shouting at? Or like traffic lights when you're late, because you try and do math about your snooze button and you always get the math wrong. You're running late and it seems like every light is turning red as you get to it, and you start to believe that the lights have some kind of agency and they're just messing with you. The thing is, living and dead aren't as clear cut as they seem. Viruses obviously pose a problem. They're amenable to Darwinian evolution. We see that in the COVID virus. Every new variant is something that evolved through Darwinian processes. But they don't self-replicate. They have to hijack living cells to make copies of themselves. Um, when is a person dead? When is a person dead? How can we know? What do you mean dead? What do you mean dead? Well, you could do a reflex check, right? Drag a pen down the sole of their bare foot, and living people, you'll get that curl, and dead people you won't. But maybe they're just paralyzed or like really deeply comatose. All right, put a mirror over their mouth and nose, and if it fogs, they're alive, probably. But if it doesn't, are they dead? Because some illnesses and medical conditions can reduce their metabolic processes to such a low level that you don't see any fog. And this is the old days, right? This is the old days of mortality in America, when families were making the call about whether someone had died, or the country doctor with their primitive methods. And sometimes people would just sit up in the middle of their own wakes and go, what the hell's going on? Right? A doctor could use a cardiac monitor, but how long after heart stoppage is the person gone? The law starts to get really fuzzy around the concept of brain dead. Someone is technically medically alive because a machine fills their lungs with oxygen and circulates their blood. They have minimal brain activity, and at some point the doctors go, this person is never waking up. They're in a persistent vegetative state. They are brain dead. How little brain activity, though, constitutes alive? Because the transplant team wants to know, yo. The family, the care doctor, and the transplant team might all disagree on whether a patient remains in the land of the living. The organ harvesters want those organs as fresh as possible, as soon as possible, to save lives. And the more you know about body systems and definitions, the harder it is actually to come down on any one side of the argument. You wind up with a lot of ambiguity caused by reification. And that shit is way too big a problem for Dora or even Diego to solve. Maybe we should let little Einsteins take a whack at it. Okay, bye.